I remember the silence more than the insults. People think pain is loud. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it screams through tears and broken nights. But the deepest pain, the kind that slowly changes who you are, is quiet. It sits beside you at dinner. It follows you into prayer. It waits for you every morning when you wake up. And for years, that silence followed me everywhere. My name is Hannah, and for a long time, people did not see me as a woman. They saw me as a disappointment. I was married to a good man. Elkanah loved me deeply. I knew that. Even now, after all these years, I still remember the gentleness in his voice when he spoke my name. But love, as beautiful as it is, cannot always heal certain wounds. Because in those days, a woman without children carried invisible chains, and I carried them everywhere. At gatherings, at feasts, at family celebrations. Women would smile at me with pity in their eyes. Some people did not even need to say anything. Their silence spoke enough. She has no child. As if that sentence explained my entire existence. But the hardest part was not society. No, the hardest part was living in the same house as another woman who had everything I prayed for. Penina. She had children, sons, daughters. Laughter filled her rooms. Tiny footsteps echoed through the house. And every sound felt like a reminder of what I did not have. At first, her words were subtle. Little comments, small stabs hidden behind smiles. But over time, they became arrows. Cool, precise, intentional. You must have done something wrong. Maybe God has forgotten you. Maybe he closed your womb for a reason. And the worst part? A small part of me wondered if she was right. Have you ever prayed so long that eventually your prayers stop sounding confident? At first you pray boldly, then desperately, then quietly, and finally, you just sit there, too tired to speak. That was me. Year after year, watching other women become mothers while I remained empty. Watching babies grow up while my arms stayed untouched by the weight of a child. I smiled in public, but at night, I broke apart. Every year we travel to the house of the Lord in Shiloh. It was supposed to be holy, peaceful, sacred. But for me, those journeys became unbearable because Penina always chose those moments to wound me the most. Maybe she enjoyed watching me crumble. Maybe hurting me made her feel stronger. I do not know. I only know that one year, I could not take it anymore. I remember the feast, the sounds of people eating, laughing, celebrating, and there I was, unable to swallow even a single bite. My husband looked at me with concern. Hannah, why are you weeping? Then he said words that were kind, but also painful. Am I not better to you than 10 sons? Well, Kana, he loved me. But even love sometimes fails to understand grief. Because this pain was not about replacing children with affection. It was deeper. It was the ache of feeling forgotten by God himself. That night, I left the table quietly. No one stopped me. Maybe they thought I needed air. Maybe they simply did not notice. But I walked toward the tabernacle carrying years of buried sorrow inside me. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped pretending to be strong. I fell to my knees, and everything inside me shattered. I prayed without dignity, without polished words, without pride. My lips trembled. Tears poured down my face. I was not performing religion anymore. I was surviving. And I remember whispering, "Lord, if you will only see me. Not bless me, not make me famous, not give me riches, just see me." Because when suffering lasts long enough, you begin to feel invisible. I made a vow that night. A dangerous vow. I said, "If you give me a son, I will give him back to you." Even now, people ask me how I could pray such a thing. As I prayed, an old priest watched me from a distance. Eli. He saw my shaking shoulders, my trembling lips, and he assumed the worst. He thought I was drunk. Drunk! Imagine that! A broken woman pouring her soul before God, mistaken for a drunk woman in the dark. And strangely enough, that hurt too, because suffering often comes with misunderstanding. People judge what they do not understand. But I looked at him through tears and said, "No, my Lord, I am a woman deeply troubled." Deeply troubled. What a small phrase for such enormous pain. I told him I had been pouring out my soul before the Lord, and something changed in his eyes. Perhaps he finally saw me, not as a spectacle, not as a problem, but as a wounded human being. Then he spoke words that would echo in my heart forever. "Go in peace. May the God of Israel grant what you have asked of him." Peace. I had almost forgotten what that word sounded like. And something strange happened after that prayer. My situation had not changed yet. I was still childless. Penina was still there. Life was still complicated. But somehow, my soul became lighter, as if surrender itself had lifted a weight from my chest. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. Then one morning, everything changed. I cannot explain it properly. There are moments in life when heaven moves quietly. No thunder, no dramatic music, just a gentle shift. And suddenly, hope begins to breathe again. I became pregnant. After years of emptiness, life was growing inside me. Do you understand what that felt like? After endless disappointment, to finally feel movement within me? I would place my hands over my stomach and cry. Not out of sadness anymore, but because miracles feel overwhelming when you have suffered for too long. When my son was born, I named him Samuel, because I asked the Lord for him. Every time I said his name, I remembered the night I almost broke completely, and the God who heard me there. People often imagine that my story ended happily there, but they forget something important. I made a vow, and vows are easy to make in desperation, harder to keep in joy. Samuel grew. His tiny hands held my fingers. His laughter filled the spaces that once carried sorrow. Every moment with him felt precious because I knew I would not keep him forever. Can you imagine that pain? To receive the very thing you prayed for and then prepare yourself to let it go? Sometimes I held him while he slept and whispered, "Lord, why does love always make us vulnerable?" The day finally came. I took my little boy back to Shiloh, the same place where I once cried in agony. But this time, I walked there holding a miracle by the hand. Samuel looked so small beside the tabernacle, too small. Part of me wanted to run, to take him home, to say, "God, you can have anything else, just not him." But I remembered the woman I used to be, broken, bleeding inside, begging heaven to see her. And I knew I could not take back my promise. I found Eli again, older now, weaker, and I said something that still shakes me when I remember it. "My Lord, I am the woman who stood here praying years ago." Then I looked at Samuel, and the Lord granted my request. So I gave my son back to God, not because I did not love him, but because I did. Because true love understands that blessings are not possessions. People think faith means never feeling pain. They are wrong. Faith often means walking forward while your heart is breaking. It means trusting God enough to release what you cannot control, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. And yes, I cried after leaving Samuel there. Of course I did. I was a mother. The road home felt longer than ever before. The silence returned. But this time, it was different. Years ago, silence felt empty. Now, it felt holy. Because suffering had changed me. Not into a bitter woman, but into someone who had seen God meet her in the darkest place. Do you know what I learned through all of this? God is closest to people the world overlooks. To the barren woman, to the grieving soul, to the person silently falling apart while everyone else keeps celebrating. He listens to prayers whispered through tears, especially those prayers. And maybe that is why my story still survives after all these years. Not because I became the mother of a prophet, but because somewhere, someone is still sitting in silent pain, still wondering if God sees them, still asking why their prayer has taken so long. And if that person is listening to me now, then hear this. There were nights I thought hope had died forever. I was wrong. God was still listening, even in the silence.
Empty arms beneath the night, a soul too tired to fight. I called your name in whispered tears, but heaven still felt out of sight. People spoke like wounds of fire. Hope grew weak, my heart grew cold. Still somewhere beneath the sorrow, a fragile faith refused to fold. In my silent prayer, you were there, counting every hidden tear when my voice was gone.